Hey, it's Greg Otten here with MaritimeGardening.com, and it's July 31st, so I'm going to do part 2 of the garden tour that I started yesterday. I've got a new camera here and new technology. We'll see how well this works. Come along and let's have a look at the remainder of the garden that I didn't get to yesterday. So I think I stopped around here somewhere. This is a garden on the sort of south wing on the garden, and there's I've got some dill growing here. That's just a weed, that thing there. Got some romaine type lettuce, forest green, and some kohlrabi growing over here, and a couple eggplant growing over there. And further off in the distance we got some whole bunch of onions. They've been growing since April. And they're doing really good. At the very end of that end of the garden I got a whole bunch of rhubarb that are big, and then down at the end here I've got, see if I can zoom this in, my grapes came back. I mean, I lost all the leaves off of these and I haven't gotten any flowers, and they're not going to produce any grapes this year, I doubt. But I certainly got the leaves, and that was the most important thing, because you use these for pickling your cucumbers if you want them to stay nice and crunchy. Just beyond the rhubarb, there's a rhubarb there. I got some beans growing along this edge, and in front of the beans I got some lettuce as well. You see that growing there? So lots of things going there. I tried to grow carrots here, and for whatever reason they failed, so I just planted other stuff. I got plenty of other carrots growing in other places. Don't know why they failed. Maybe I'll try them again next year. I'm kind of stubborn like that. So here we are at what we might call the north end of the garden. And right here is a garden full of potatoes. This is a garden I worked on in the winter. I called it How to Fix a Problem Garden or something like that. Anyway, these are really, looking good, looking healthy. And I pulled some potato. I pulled one of the plants on the weekend and ate that with my lunch. And man, it was just great. Really good red chieftain potatoes. No complaints at all. Just past the potatoes, I have a apple tree, and this is a Northern Spy apple tree. And this is the first year it has apples. You can see there's the odd one. It's not weighted down with apples, but I definitely have them. And so I mean, if you're planting apple trees, depending on your soil conditions and so forth, be patient. You just never know how long it's going to take. I planted these in 2014 and they're just starting to produce apples now. And just to keep it real, I've got another apple tree right here. This is one of those 5-tree apple trees, and really kind of sick looking. The leaves aren't a proper green. No apples on it. It looked sick last year and it looks sick this year. I don't know what's going on. Probably too much moisture in the soil. Anywhere here in this garden, if you dig down a couple feet, you get water. And that's not really the ideal conditions for apple trees. But I planted them anyway. Sometimes they just figure out a way to get along. And certainly that Northern Spy has finally sorted itself out. And I got another 5-tree right over here, which is actually producing. It's got plenty of apples growing in there. See, you can see them growing in there. And this is the first year this tree is actually, you see, there's a fairly good abundance of apples, and this is the first year it's really given me a decent yield. So yeah, it takes a while. It takes patience, and if it's not working, as long as a tree keeps getting leaves every year and so on, just leave it and hopefully it adapts. So this end of the garden, I got a couple beds that just got different berries. I got blueberries in here, and some strawberries that I moved last year. And this garden is sort of a work in progress, but I mean, if you look at the blueberries, this bush is actually quite heavy with them. The branches are weighted down with blueberries and they come in really strong. Let me take that from another angle. So you can see this blueberry plant here is that one there is basically, it was straight up a few months ago and now it's bent down. That's from the weight of the blueberries. And this one here is fairly heavy with blueberries as well. And you know, I really chalk that up to, you know, it's been about, I think this is year 3 for these guys. And I left it alone the first couple of years, but this spring I pruned them. And boy, I really like this camera. This year I pruned them just a little bit. I should have filmed it, but I just had to get it done. And they're really doing great. A good yield. Now this end of the garden I got 3 cold frames. And they're all, this one and this one are growing tomatoes. And the one to the far left are peppers. And really this is the best year I've had things growing in them because it's just been so hot. So if you look at over here at this one, I direct seeded a whole bunch of really high-end exotic seeds from my sponsor, Vessi Seeds, in these cold frames. Tomato seeds, blight resistant, everything resistant seeds. And we had a ridiculous cold snap in the middle of June. I planted them either early June or late May, I can't remember now exactly. Anyway, everything was wiped out and killed. So I had no seeds, so I work next to a dollar store and I just bought some dollar store tomato seeds. And I mean, these things have come in really well. They're, you know, I direct seeded these about the same day or within a matter of days of putting some transplants that I bought at a garden center in the ground. And they're pretty close to each other in size, I gotta say. There really wasn't that much of a difference. So happy with that. The tomatoes in this one were just moved from the ones that, so everything was direct. I probably direct seeded over a dozen in here. And they just grew on their own with the lid down. I removed the lids right now, they're just leaning back there out of the way. That way the rain can get in. You know, why do you want to frig around with lids and venting and all that sort of stuff this time of year when it's, you know, close to 20 at night and up to 30 during the day? So I just plucked some out of the ground here just with my hands and moved them over here. You've seen how I do that. And these ones are, you know, a little bit behind the other ones, but pretty damn close. And then further over here, I've got peppers. These are just transplants that I bought at a garden center. And the best year I've had for peppers here since 2014. That was the last hot summer we had here, based on my reckoning and my recollection of things. We haven't really had where I am anyway, a good growing season like this in 4 years. Just for those that are curious, those Alaskan bush peas, for all the trellis I built, they really are bush peas. They didn't get much higher than 2 feet. They're still producing a fair amount of peas, but I imagine they're just about done. But these ones came in earlier than anything else, so it is good. And then, you know, it's good to have a small amount of peas like that. But I wouldn't go wholesale because the ones that climb a little higher give you more. But anyway, the reason I'm over here is just to show you the asparagus. The asparagus are doing fine here. Right, that's an asparagus right there. They've all come in. Almost every one I planted has germinated and grown. So really happy with the direct seeding asparagus technique. Very happy with that. Can't wait to see how this garden progresses over the next couple of years. Hopefully I can start harvesting them in 3 or 4 years. Just to give you a panoramic view of the garden in the waning hours of sunlight of the day. That's what we're dealing with at the end of July. I might have said June earlier, I mean July. It's the last day of July 2018. Garden's looking great for this time of year. It's a very good year. That's the enclosed part of the garden, and over here is the part I've got outside the enclosure. I grow things outside the garden enclosure, the fenced in area, that I have found deer, porcupines, and rabbits seem to leave alone. That is nightshades, certain kinds of squashes, things like onions and garlic and potatoes. All those things seem to just get left alone by the various herbivores that live in that miles and miles of forest over there. Right. So let me show you how those things are doing. This is that garden I built last year where I did a video called How to Build an Awesome Garden for $0 or something like that. That's that garden, and it is an awesome garden. These tomatoes are, remember, everything, all the tomatoes, everything was killed and wiped out in the middle of June, and it's now 6 weeks later, and I got tomatoes that are almost 3 feet high. These were transplanted in the middle of June, and they were probably 7-inch high tomatoes at that point in time, so doing great. Go back and look at that video to see how I made this garden. It was not hard. It was very easy. This garden here was built the same way. This is where I planted, I did an experiment where I planted grocery store garlic, and I've been meaning to do a video devoted directly to that, a follow-up video. Short story is fail. More to come, stay tuned on that. I pulled a whole bunch of them out and planted potatoes here because I lost the whole thing, but I'll elaborate that in another video. Over here we have the newest addition to my garden. I always seem to add a little bit of space every year, and this year I was quite busy, but I added a space here that's about, I don't know, 4 by 12. Just pickaxe the ground, jam some potatoes in the ground, and put a whole bunch of grass clippings. I think about 6 bags of those, you know, those big brown paper bags of grass clippings that a neighbor had thrown out on top, and then went to Cuba. Didn't do anything. I haven't watered this or touched it for a month. It's totally fine. Doing great. I believe these are Kennebec potatoes. This is one of the hugelkultur beds I built last fall, the one where I did that video and I laid down on top of it at the end. I planted all onions here this year because the animals leave those alone. At the very end of the bed I put some sort of squash or pumpkin in. You can see the pumpkin's doing really well. I can't remember if it's a squash or pumpkin, but it's starting to climb up this fence over here, and I basically trained it that way so I can let me back out here. I trained it off the end of the garden so I don't want it growing in between the rows, so I can access the gardens. So this garden over here, I've got the same sort of thing going on, right? I've got tomatoes down the middle and pumpkins on the sides, but I'm training all the squash vines that way so it'll go off to the end, so I can walk in between the beds, and I can also walk around this way where I want to walk. So I'm just training everything over that way. And each of those will probably grow 10 feet or more, and maybe even up that fence. And for whatever reason, the deer have left them alone. And this is a wild forest. There's coyotes and black bears and everything in here, and there's deer, and there's deer trails around my garden. I'll show you that in a second. So they're definitely around, but the fence seems to keep them out, luckily for me, and they seem to leave these beds alone because there's no leafy greens, which is what they like, beans and stuff like that. And this is another one of the hugelkultur beds. I grew potatoes here last year, and in the fall I planted garlic, and I literally haven't lifted a finger in this garden since then. Right? I just planted those in November and have done nothing. And they're going to be ready to harvest in a couple weeks at the rate they're going. I'll have to do another video on harvesting garlic. I know those ones seem quite popular. Anyway, that's where I am right now. There's a horsefly attacking the camera right now. That's where things are right now. And just to give you a sense of effort and work and so on, I have not turned the hose on here for 3 weeks. I mean, we've had some rain and stuff like that, but I've talked to other gardeners where I work, and they've been watering their gardens, but of course, they don't use a heavy mulch like me. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So anyway, if you're not mulching, get mulching, because it's just a lot more relaxing and easy when you do it that way, and it feeds your soil, and your plants do great, and your soil gets healthier and healthier, and everything just benefits from it. If you don't like hard work, get mulching. So that's where we are right now, the last day of July 2018. Garden's doing great. It's a great growing season. Really happy with how things are going. I want to thank all of you for continuing to watch, and I like all your comments. Keep them coming. You know, I try to respond to all of them as quickly as I can. You know, if viewership keeps picking up, I don't know how I'll be able to keep up with all of them, but I'll keep trying for as long as I can. And thanks for all of that. So if you did enjoy this content, please like, share, subscribe, and check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com. I put out a new podcast every 2 weeks. I'll be doing one this Saturday. I usually try to get it out Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, sometimes Saturday, usually Saturday morning, give or take. Until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.